Hi guys, welcome to the latest podcast of YarninBlak. Today I've got a really special friend of mine on, Max, but I'll introduce you to Max very shortly. But I would like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land that I'm currently calling in from. I'm here in Baldwin Q on the land of the Wurundjeri people, and I want to pay respect to elders past, present, and those future warriors that are fighting for us, the young ones that are coming through who are going to be our leaders of our future. And I want to acknowledge any other Aboriginal people who join us today. So, guys, I want to introduce you to one of my mates, Max. How are you, Max?
Hi, everyone.
Hi. So, Max, tell us a little bit about who you are and where you're from.
So my name's Max Phelps. I'm a boy who lives up on the mid-north coast of New South Wales in a small town called Kempsey. And I'm currently studying at Scotch College. So I've just finished my second year and I'm heading into my final year next year.
Yeah. So what made you decide to go to Scotch to study?
Well, it originally started with my auntie having a look at some of the APS schools in Melbourne. She really thought it'd be a good opportunity for me to get out of my town where I'm not provided with much education opportunities. So we had a look and we settled on Scotch, and the Indigenous program looked perfect for me. And, you know, I got given an opportunity and I took it, and I'm loving every bit of it.
What do you love most about Scotch?
Oh, the community. The big facilities and everything there are awesome, but the community with your mates and the boys, especially up in the boarding house, it's unreal. It's nothing you can experience anywhere else in the world. So I'm really happy and grateful for that opportunity.
What was it like to have to leave Kempsey to actually go into a boarding house?
It's pretty full on to start off with. I remember my first term of school, I was so overwhelmed with everything. I can barely remember it. But heading to a school that's the size of my hometown, it is scary. It's really daunting, but you know, the more people you meet, the more you get settled in, people show you around, and then eventually you become that person to show new people around. So it is a great cycle, and once you get comfortable, it's becomes the best period of your life, really.
Now, you've only been there for 2 years, so you started in year 10, didn't you?
Yeah.
Yeah. And this year, we're about to go into it, but you've got 2 leadership positions at the school.
I do, yes. So for next year, I've been offered captain of McMecken House, which is my boarding house. That role requires me to work very closely with the headmaster of my boarding house. I think we've got about 60 boys in there. So to be a captain of something at Scotch is a pretty cool achievement of my boarding house. I think it's awesome. Yeah, I'm trying to focus on
what was the process of you had to go through to before that?
for the McMecken House Captain. We all had to write a message to our head of house, you know, to say why we're interested and why we think we'd be a good participant. And then he puts, I think there was 5 or 6 participants through. And then we all speak in front of the house. Voting goes into it, and then there's an interview after with the head of house and deputy head of house. And based off your votes accumulated with your interview and how well you went, I guess they make the decision from there. And I was lucky enough to be offered the role.
Awesome. So what does the role actually involve?
So it involves me being a leader, not just when the boys aren't looking. I need to be a role model for the younger boys coming into the house. I think there's about 15 new boys coming in this year. A lot of year 9s. So, you know, year 9 can be one of the toughest years to come in. So being a role model and, you know, trying to focus on fostering a sense of unity within the house. And if you'd like to say house culture, so just the way the boys get around each other, No one feels left out. Everyone feels included. And kind of just being someone that everyone can talk to if they don't want to go to the teachers and they can look up to and things like that.
And what's the second role that you've got?
So prefect for 2025.
Prefect.
Yeah, that was pretty unreal. That's a lot trickier than getting captain of house. Yeah. And out of the 25 prefects, I think it's 15 of them are already chosen through captains down at the day school.
Okay, yeah.
Being a captain of my boarding house didn't make me automatically a prefect. So that was the risk I took when I wanted to get a boarding position rather than a day school position.
Yeah.
But luckily enough, I was offered school prefect as well for next year. So that involved me filling out an application, votes going out to all the boys currently in year 11 who they want to be their leaders next year. And then from there on, it's worked with the principal, the dean of students and the deputy principal, and they make their decision.
Yeah. Well, congratulations. I'm really proud of you for doing that.
Thank you.
So I'm going to ask you a couple of questions. What's leadership to you?
I feel like it's always been something I've been very strong with. Whether it's out on the sports field, just being a natural leader, or playing with your mates and, telling them when's enough is enough and being the one to stand up. I always feel like I've been a really good leader. I feel like leadership is one of the most important roles someone can have, important values someone can have. It includes doing the right thing, not just at the right time, even at the wrong time as well. Yeah. That's all initiative. Leadership's got a lot of discipline and initiative. And I think leadership to me is something I really want to keep pursuing, and I'm glad I'm given an opportunity to do it at Scotch.
Yeah. I always find leadership as well is sometimes being a leader is actually creating pathways for other people to progress. Even in front of me, I don't necessarily have to be the person out the front, but I can create platforms for other people. That's still kind of leadership as well.
And leadership isn't defined with a badge or a specific title. Anyone can be a leader. If things weren't to go the way I wanted with the captaincy roles and the prefect, I would have still been the best leader I can for other boys. I'm just obviously grateful and blessed for the opportunity I was given. But it shouldn't stop people if they don't get their role to be a leader and, support people when they need to be and just be a natural, humbling person.
Yeah. So what's your favourite thing at Scotch that you like doing the most there?
I really enjoy being in the boarding house. After we finish a hard day at school and, training at sport or something, I love just getting back to the boarding house and having yarns with boys. We've got 5 or 6 boys in the room. We're all just sitting there just having a good yarn about stuff. And, we always love making last minute plans. Should we quickly run down the street and do some shopping, or on the weekend, should we go out here? And I think it's just an environment I'm glad I'm exposed to and I wish I knew of earlier.
Yeah. The
boarding house at Scotch holds a key place in my heart, and that's, I want to keep fulfilling that next year.
Yeah. What do you hope to do after you finish year 12?
I would like to be the first male person in my family, on my dad's side of the family especially, go to university in generations. I can't name one of my dad's side of the family, boys and girls, that have been to university. So I'd like to be, the first and, show my younger brothers, we can do it. It is possible. And show the rest of my family you don't need to go the trade route in towns like Kempsey. You can go to university. You can come back to Kempsey, but you can go to university, small or big universities as well.
Yeah.
But I think my plan is now I'd like to study down in Melbourne after I finish Scotch. I'd like to get into any university down there and study down there and, choose a course that I think will be the most naturally fulfilling for me and something I can help other people with as well.
Yeah. Any idea what industry you want to go into?
Still pretty early, but if there's anyone who could do something law related,
Yeah.
and then, if that opens a door for me to come back to Kempsey and help younger troubled people, people that need that support. It's a very, very different environment to that of Melbourne. Younger boys doing things they shouldn't, and where they need someone to be there for them and help out community and help out all those families. So I think that's something I would like to do, study in Melbourne and then eventually find my way back to Kempsey to help younger boys that are in trouble, really.
Got a question. When you were going through primary school and the beginning of high school before you get to Scotch College, how much Aboriginal studies did you actually learn at school?
Well, being a very heavy density Aboriginal population at my school, I think we had about 400 kids from prep to year 12 in the whole school. And, we had a large proportion of that was Indigenous students. So having those co-curricular activities outside of the classroom, so if we were learning language, I still remember Gila Gloria coming in and she taught us language, dancing outside of school. In primary school, we're getting taken out of class to, I don't know, sit with different teachers and learn about culture. And it was something everyone looked forward to. And we made the most of the time, really.
Yeah. And you do a lot of cultural activities at Scotch as well, too, don't you?
Yes. With your help, we loved our dancing this year. Being able to dance, the first people ever to dance at the Court Eggleston Cup.
Yeah.
Or being the first people to ever dance in Memorial Hall in Assembly. We're changing the way Scotch is just with those little things.
And we're dancing as well at the valedictorian dinner.
I know that'll be probably the biggest, really.
Yeah.
So, with your help and, with the boys looking forward and, chipping in at it as well, it is possible with making a change and all the studies and learning we're doing. And then all that extra time we've been given to, practice dancing and stuff. It is a surreal feeling. And
yeah. What's what's your favourite sport?
Well, I've loved cricket my whole life.
Yeah.
And I still do. I played up until this year and then I just been practicing golf a lot. So cricket and golf for me have been my two favourite sports. Not so much golf in the last few years, but I've just recently picked it up. I'm just learning and trying to get a lot better.
Yeah.
And I
Do you have
can't
a handicap?
Oh, that's what I'm doing now. I've signed a
Yeah.
membership up at South Kempsey Golf Club, and I'm putting in my scorecards for that.
Cool.
So I can't really say footy's my favourite sport in AFL because they don't have it where I'm from.
Yeah.
You can't walk outside right now in Kempsey and keep your footy or look for a footy team because they're non-existent. Everyone here plays rugby league or rugby union. And, the closest AFL competition is, 45 minutes away. So it's just, the New South Wales coast, it's not big. So I just grew up playing cricket, really.
I grew up in Tweed Heads, okay?
Yeah.
And it wasn't until the mid-'80s that AFL had even been mentioned.
Yeah.
And it was only introduced through the Sydney Swans.
Yeah.
My introduction, probably about 85, 86, is when we started learning to play AFL at school. because it was being shown on television, basically.
Mm.
So it doesn't sound like it's changed much
Yeah.
since.
Well, believe it or not, we had a Sydney Swans Academy thing as well come in when I was in year six, I think, so years ago now, and um,
Yeah.
we had this Paul Kelly Cup. So, it was just all the schools in Kempsey, I think the 4 or 5, and then a few other schools as well. And it was just a bunch of rugby league boys coming together trying to play AFL. And, they'd be dropping the ball all over the place and kicking it randomly. And, we're just trying to learn really because we've never played before. So that was the first time it really anyone had ever played it. And since then, I don't think anyone has played it. So, yeah.
So, with what subjects are you studying next year?
So I'm studying math and English, geography, and then I'm doing legal studies and business management as well. So
Cool.
I had accounting this year as well, but I feel like for me, dropping accounting heading into year 12 will give me the best chance to get a better score.
Yeah.
And I already had a lot of commerce on my agenda already. That's a lot of commerce subjects, but it is cool because I didn't think you could. Well, my old school, I don't think we offered commerce really. I think they offered maybe one commerce, and there was a few kids in the class. But to have
Yeah.
these different branches of it and being able to do it is something I thought was awesome, and that's why I chose it, and I love it. And for me, legal studies right now is my personal favorite. I think
Yeah.
the actual content we're learning is so cool, and it's so good, and
Yeah.
it is tricky, but that's why you need to knuckle down and get it done because I think it'll be so good in the long run.
Yeah. Look, I did legal studies when I was in year 12 and I loved it. And I think
Mm.
a good foundation understanding about how laws were actually created and how the legal system actually works. So I think it's a fantastic subject. I reckon everybody should do legal
I
studies.
think it's a no-brainer. It's like nothing you can. It's so good. It's about real world things within our government, in our country, and yeah, I love it as well. It's the best subject I've ever done.
Yeah.
Mm.
Hey, if I could give you a magic wand and zillions of dollars, what's the first thing you'd like to change in Aboriginal affairs in Australia?
Probably, empowerment. The empowerment Aboriginal people should, focus on getting through the government, if you could say. If the
Yeah.
government had just more support to empower Indigenous youth and Indigenous people as well. Um, it still is a big problem in Australia. You can't deny it.
Yeah.
Especially up in remote northern communities. Those people, they need help. And I think to have just something that can change their lives around as well.
Yeah. Do you think Australia's a racist country?
I think Stan Grant summed it up perfectly with that quote. Trying to remember, I think something along the lines Australia isn't a racist country, it was found on racism.
Mm.
It's something along those lines. It's, how can a society as a whole change for something I guess they believe is what is normal?
Yeah.
And I think Stan Grant, the way he summed that up in that quote, he said, Australia was founded on racism. So
Yeah.
200, 300 years later or whatever, it's time to understand that there needs to be some sort of change.
What are still some of the stereotypes out there that people have about Aboriginal people?
Not really, not good ones. Um, Probably the main thing I'm thinking of is they're not contributing to society with working,
Yeah.
and people just assume Indigenous people live off Centrelink really.
Yeah.
And, you know, in areas where I live, especially, it's seen that, you know, stereotyping is still a really big thing. Just among the other people of Kempsey, they still stereotype, and it's not really nice. It's nasty in a way.
Yeah. How can we break some of those stereotypes, you reckon?
I'm not so sure. I just think the best way we can do is just try and educate people. But, you know, middle-aged people and older people who are at the end of their, I could say, working career, they, you know, they don't want to get educated. They spent 50 or 60 years of their life firmly believing on something. Why would they want to change it now? So I think it's a bigger issue than what we think it is.
Yeah. Do you think in 2025 that more Indigenous perspectives are being taught in curriculum at school?
I'm not sure if Scotch is offering that really. I think, especially, I think legal studies is the most, like we've talked about, Indigenous things just through their struggles with the justice system and stuff like that. And then the Koori Tribunal. I don't think there's particularly any part where schools, through their key knowledge points, are, you know, what's the word there? Identifying Aboriginal issues. And I think history just brings back the problems. I don't think they identify how they were changed and how they need to be solved.
Yeah.
I would like to see a lot more though. I would like to see workshops, or, you know, just even language signs around the school.
Yeah.
Things that students can easily pick up on, and, you know, it becomes a part of them in a way.
Yeah. That'd be good if that could occur, wouldn't it? It would be a real eye opener for non-Indigenous students to actually see. But it's important to the local language to be incorporated into buildings and into aspects of the school.
I paid a visit to my old school 2 weeks ago to watch my little brother get an award, and the old language signs that were still up there since I was there back in primary school were still up. And, you know, and it just brings back, like, my old school has tried to do a lot for it. You know, they learn songs, Indigenous songs. They put up those signages, and I think Scotch is working towards that. So I'm the student representative on the Reconciliation Action Plan Committee at Scotch, and one of our big talks has been trying to get a lot of Indigenous art and signs around the school. So with approval of elders and stuff, I'd like to be able to have signs that just hello in Wurundjeri, and at the bottom it says the English translation or something. Because people get involved that way. They just start speaking and saying it.
Yeah, I think that'd be really good. So what's the Reconciliation Action Plan Committee doing at the school?
So a few times a term we'll meet together. It's kind of Dr. Smith leads the way, and then we've got the principal and the deputy principals, dean of students, and we've got a lot of people on there. We've each got our own branch of what we're focusing on. So right now I'm with Mrs. Jones and Mr. Clark in the boarding house area. And one of the things we've trying to do for our branch is for Wedderburn, which is where the 3 boarding houses participate in a sport competition. They bring in Aboriginal games.
Yeah.
So there can be an Aboriginal game for one of those things, and that counts as points towards the house as well.
Okay, cool.
So everyone has their own little segment we're trying to do to make the school, you know, feel more included in culture.
Yeah.
That makes sense, yeah.
It is. It is.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, a couple more questions before we go. Is that I know you've got a couple of brothers. Yep. So what's the age difference between all of you?
So my younger brother is 18 months younger than me. Samuel, he's just completed his first year at Scotch as well. And then my little brother, Jackson, he's I think there's an 11-year difference. So Jackson's just completed his first year of kindergarten or
Yeah.
prep. And so he turns 6 early January next year, and then he'll start year 1 as well. So time's flying with that. He's starting year 1, I'm starting year 12.
Yeah.
So it is a big age difference. It really is.
Yeah. So when he turns 18, you'll be 30.
Around that, something. Oh, wow, that's.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm just watching the time. I'll ask you one final question: is what would you like people to walk away with from our yarn this morning?
Now, one thing I've tried not to do is bag out my little old town Kempsey and say how good the big city is and stuff. But it's somewhere you grow up and you just connect with everyone. I'm back here for holidays. I feel like I'm at home again. These little towns aren't all as bad as they're made out to be. Yes, the city has more opportunities. That's just a given fact with how big population is, how big the city is, the revenue of the city as well. But little towns, remote towns on the coast and inland, Kempsey, for me, it's a big part of my identity.
Yeah.
I want people to walk away and think, the little boy from Kempsey can do it. Other boys from Kempsey can do it in their town. Towns can do it as well. It doesn't just have to be Kempsey. And yes, the city gives opportunities, but you can succeed in these little towns as well.
Yeah.
It is, yeah. So I want people to walk away with that thought.
Well, thanks for that, Max. I really love yarning with you. I can't wait to work with you again next year. You know how much I care and support everything that you do. I want to say thank you for joining us on the podcast. And guys, I want to say I'll join you at the next podcast. So thanks heaps. And thanks, Max.
Thank you for having me.